Hey guys, how you doing? An interesting video. A thing came up on Facebook a few days ago, and I guess they're establishing they have established a formal New Zealand Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu federation or association, and I got tagged in the post because I was, I guess, one of the pioneers of Jiu-Jitsu in New Zealand, one of the early adopters, and there was some dispute over, what was happening, when it happened, who was what grade, and things like that. So I've been asked to to kind of recount my experience in the early days. Excuse me. I've just been out running in the forest, haven't drunk much yet. So I started in I'm going to say, and if anything's inaccurate, it's only because I'm going off memory. I started, I reckon, January, February of '97 at the Academy of Combat in Christchurch, Litchfield Street, I believe. And I was doing Aikido before that. I've spoken about this in other videos. I was doing Aikido before that, and my Aikido coach was an amateur wrestler, and we shared a judo school, so I was doing judo there as well, Aikido. Friday nights he and I would wrestle a lot. I was 100 kilos at the time. And I'd just finished 10 years of professional mountain biking, and I would always do martial arts on my off season. So I went looking for something, and I'd done Aikido for a couple of years during my off season, and my Aikido coach, not looking like the sort of typical Aikido coach, kind of real short and stocky with massive wrists. And so anyway, he suggested that I seek out Jiu-Jitsu. He goes, because I really enjoyed Aikido, I loved the movement and I loved the mechanics of it, but I was a really super physical guy, and so it was his suggestion that sent me towards Jiu-Jitsu. And I can't remember how I met Matt. I wish I knew Matt's last name. It might come to me. Big English guy, was an osteopath, and did a lot of Wing Chun and stuff like that, and boxing. He's a very good boxer. So he and I ended up going to the Academy of Combat. I'm pretty sure we went to a few different schools that night, got in a couple of fights, ended up going to the Academy of Combat, and forgive me for admitting what I used to be like, but again, it's the way that my father conditioned me, right? If you want to see what someone has, fight them, right? And so I went in with this kind of attitude, I was young and dumb and stuff, and I was like, right, let's fight, let's go see what's going on. And Jeff Aiken was at reception, right? He's a big dude, he's probably 6'4" or something like this. He's well over 100 kilos, maybe 120 or something, big dude. Anyway, his big, deep, gravelly voice, he's like, well, go fight them guys over there then. And he pointed me in the direction of James Tung, I think that's the correct pronunciation, he's a black belt now. And I wish I could remember this guy's name. He was 90 kilos, really big shoulders, kind of long, kind of mulleted, kind of blondie hair. I think he was a blue belt at the time. He might have been a purple belt. I can't remember what belt Jeff was. I remember the guys saying that Jeff had won the Pan Am Champs, I think as a blue belt. Whenever, maybe the year before or something like that, right? So this is 97. So anyway, Matt and I get directed to go over these guys. They beat the hell out of us, and I was super impressed. I was really cocky. And anyway, so I tell the story. I went home, cried in the shower for a couple of hours. Next morning, get up, go back and start training again. And they'd beaten us up pretty good because we had quite the attitude. Well, I had quite the attitude. Matt was always pretty mellow. And so then started my training, and I was still sponsored for my bike racing, so I could just train all day, every day. So I did. I'd literally buy muffins at the shop across the road and a big bottle of Fanta or Coke or something, go across the road to the Academy of Combat, spend the entire day there, do every single class. And so Jeff's symbol was kind of like this three-pronged thing. And it represented kicking from Thai boxing, and the guard from Jiu-Jitsu, and then a weapon, because he taught all three. So early on it was kind of referred to as shoot fighting, or you could get graded in shoot fighting, but you had to do weapons, and you had to do the Thai boxing, and you had to qualify in jiu-jitsu as well. So, and he had a curriculum. He had like 20 or 30 techniques on the wall, and so I don't recall how Jeff got into jiu-jitsu, but he traveled a lot. He was a microbiology professor, and he used to go overseas to conferences a lot. So he said to me that whenever he went overseas, he would always get all the course notes, right? And then just spend all his time going to the local jiu-jitsu academies and learning what he could from them, and then bringing that back and adding that to the system that he was creating at the Academy of Combat, that traditionally was a massive Thai boxing gym. It was huge, right? And so it was predominantly a big Thai boxing gym. And they did like Filipino Eskrima and stuff like that. And jiu-jitsu was really new. Like, we only probably had like 20 mats in the corner. And it made the Thai boxing guys kind of mad, because like there was the UFC playing on the TV showing the strikers losing to all the grapplers, and then our mats kept growing as Jeff kept buying more and more mats for the room. So anyway, I was training literally 8 hours a day, all day, every day. I didn't have to work. Sometimes on the weekends I'd do some security work, but pretty much it was just like full-time training. And the training was vicious. Like, we would beat the living hell out of each other. I mean, there were gi classes. We'd have like 1 or 2 gi classes a day, but most of the time it was really hard Thai boxing, and we were doing a lot of velo tudo training. We just had our little tight fight shorts on. There was no gloves. You could headbutt, you could elbow, you could punch them in the head, you could do whatever you wanted. It was really, really hard training. So as Carl Weber, Carl was up on the North Island. I've learnt that he was training with Lindorfer Kyler, who I believe I met in like 98. So anyway, the training was absolutely insane. I mean, it was intelligently designed. Like, don't get me wrong, Jeff was really, really smart, lifelong martial artist, super dedicated. I wouldn't say he was a lovely guy, right? I mean, he and I butted heads. I was really stubborn. I had a problem with authority figures from childhood, as I've explained before about, you know, my crazy childhood and stuff like that. So, you know, like, I literally said to him the second day that I trained, like, I want to fight you every single day at the end of all of my training for the day, and when I start beating you, I'm going to leave, right? And so every single day, Jeff and I, at the end of all of the training, would go at it on the mat, and he'd kick my ass, right? But I was pretty strong. I was really fit, a professional athlete. I was training all the time, and so, you know, like, it took a couple of years for me to start, you know, getting one over on him occasionally. So anyway, so I trained full time the whole year, and then I guess maybe midway through the year, we heard about a national jiu-jitsu championship that was going to be held in Auckland, and I guess it was really late in the year, maybe November, December, because I remember it was going to be very hot, so I did a lot of heat training. I'd go out into the back country of the South Island in New Zealand and go running where, you know, just kill myself in preparation for going up to Auckland. So I got to the Auckland, a team of us went up, and yeah, so we went, a whole bunch of us stayed in this house, and then the next day we had the nationals. I've told the story before where I saw a flying armbar in this kung fu movie the night before, and the next day I started doing them to people. Anyway, so we went to the nationals, and the tournament was divided into 2 parts. It was a big like basketball stadium thing, and so half of the tournament was grappling only, and the other half was striking with grappling. So you were supposed to wear like gloves and shin pads. I didn't wear shin pads, but I got told off for that. So yeah, I was in like, I don't know, 3 or 4 different weight divisions in both tournaments. Ended up like pretty much doing a clean sweep of the whole thing. And I can't recall how the other guys did. I mean, yeah, I you know, I just went up and did my best to smash everybody. And So that would have been at the end of 97, and then got my blue belt when I got back, and then, was it that nationals? It would have been that nationals. So someone asked me when I got back to demonstrate a flying armbar, and I'd, as I said to them, I'd never practiced one, I just did it in the tournament. So I jumped up and landed on my head. This is what I was told. I lost complete memory. I landed on my head, complete amnesia, didn't know anything, had no idea about what was going on. You know, like I didn't know my hometown. I lost everything. I didn't even know why I was wearing a gi or anything like that. And I remember like a week later, because Jeff rang me later that night at home, and he's like, well, you've got to be ready because you're fighting in a week. And there was like a tournament being held at the Academy of Combat, and that was, I guess, I don't know, I think Carl Webber was talking about it, that was kind of the first BJJ Nationals. But I was in no fit state to fight. There's no way I should have. Literally complete amnesia. Like I had no idea where I was. I didn't know my girlfriend. I didn't know where I lived. I didn't know the town that I had lived in for 10 years. I was a mess, and yet I still turned up to fight Carl Webber a week later, and I had no idea what I was doing. I remember just standing there being terrified because I had no idea. And then he grabbed me and threw me on the ground and put me on a footlock, and I just yelled and then kind of tapped and he let go. And years later, like 10 years later, he and I chatted about it, and he had no idea the state that I was in. He was very excited that he kicked my ass that day, but I shouldn't have been fighting. Anyway, not taking that away from Carl. But so 98, trained full time, aiming at the Nationals at the end of the year again. Another clean sweep in the striking and in the grappling divisions. Came home with a bunch of medals, and I'd already decided that I wanted to go and pursue fighting in the UFC. Jeff had already said that he had had an offer from Pride Fighting Championship for me to go fight Oleg Taktarov's top guy, but Jeff said, I've told them no because they want you to throw the fight, and I know that you wouldn't throw the fight. You'd get killed by the Yakuza or something for you know, not doing what they said. So again, the training during 98, insane as always, basically killing each other all the time, all day, all night. And on Sundays when the gym was shut, we'd go to the beach and we'd fight each other at the beach or in a park or whatever. And I even got a gi, because the white gis were terrible on the grass, so I dyed it kind of black so I could train on the grass, but then you just end up, you get really sunburnt and stuff. Anyway, so after winning my second Nationals, then I was awarded my purple belt, but that would be purple belt in shoot fighting. Yeah, like we didn't know anything about jiu-jitsu grades or how it worked. We knew there was like blue, purple, brown, and black. And towards the end of that year, John Will came over and did a seminar at our gym. And so that was the first black belt that we'd met. And I really wanted to fight him, right? Because I was really interested to see like just how good these guys were. And like I'd met Lindorfer Kyler in 98 at the Nationals. He came up and introduced himself to me, and as a Hickson Gracie black belt. I was an idiot. I should have just taken off and gone and trained with him. But to me, you know, I was so arrogant back then. I just thought the sun shone out my butt, and I was like, yeah, cool, whatever. You know, it's stupid. He and I have stayed friends ever since, and I just wish that I'd gone up to train with him immediately. You know, things could have been very different. Anyway, so I was aware that Lindorfer Kyler was teaching in the North Island in Auckland. There was a guy down south in Dunedin. What's his name? Mark? Maybe? Like 80, 90 kilo guy, had a dark beard. He went in the first cage fight that we had, which was in Dunedin. When was that? Was that 97 or 98? I can't remember if it was 97 or 98, but it was the first sanctioned cage fight in New Zealand, and that was in Dunedin. So a whole team of us from the Academy of Combat travelled down in a van. I was real mad because I didn't have a fight. James Tongue fought, and that like 90 kilo guy with the big shoulders and the long hair, he fought. I ended up refereeing one of the matches. I shouldn't have. I was drunk. I was in the front row. We were drinking the whole trip down, and I was sitting there, and one of the referees didn't turn up, so I ended up getting in the ring and refereeing one of the fights. Chris Easley won the heavyweight one of that, and he fought that guy from Dunedin, I think in the final. So you could probably look up who that guy was. But everything was real new. Everybody was kind of like trying to get bits and pieces of information from all over the place. Chris Easley came and trained at the Academy of Combat for a few months, and you know, he was like, I think, a 4-time world Japanese Jiu-Jitsu champion, and he was British Japanese Jiu-Jitsu champion. He's a big dude. He used to kick the shit out of me. It used to annoy the hell out of me. I used to go crazy. I went into the bathroom one day after he beat me up, and I went into the bathroom and just like smashed the whole bathroom up. I was so mad. I hated losing, and he was just like owning me. I was really mad. So I'd already had the plan to go fight in the UFC. I'd been in contact with Helson Gracie and Ken Shamrock at the Lions Den. That was kind of my goal, was to go and fight in the UFC. So after meeting John Will, who politely kind of declined rolling with me, but I was really impressed with the guy, and I'm like, I want to go train under a black belt. So as soon as I could, so early 99, I reckon it would be like March, April, I ended up moving to Australia to go train with John. John had said that he was in Melbourne, which was not correct, right? And I wish he'd got it right, because I went and got myself a job in Melbourne, got myself a security job, and got set up in Melbourne, only to find out that he was actually like 150k south in Geelong, another city. So I ended up training with Machado's in Melbourne, and then eventually I found the Gracie Academy with Peter Devine and ended up training with him. So I arrived there as a purple belt, wearing my like shoot fighting or jiu-jitsu purple belt, but Peter said, you know, like it would be better if you were like a blue belt. There weren't many, there's like maybe one other purple belt floating around, and I probably wasn't purple belt material in jiu-jitsu, you know, like, again, I was doing well, I could hold my own, but technically probably not. So Peter Devine put me in as a blue belt, so I started wearing a blue belt again, and competed for him, then set up my own school, and so on and so forth. So I'd heard of John Danaher in my travels, so I think that, like, I heard that Jeff Aiken got his black belt. I don't know what year, but I'm gonna say it's probably like mid-2000s or something like that. So I think in terms of like black belts awarded in New Zealand, I think he would probably be first. The first person from New Zealand to receive their black belt, I would say, would be John Danaher. Again, I don't know that exact timeline, but it would make sense. He would have received his black belt in the States, most probably. So it depends on, and then I got my black belt in 2007. I still had a New Zealand passport. I still have a New Zealand passport. Does that qualify me as like the second guy or third or whatever black belt from New Zealand? I don't know. But that's kind of the timeline. So jiu-jitsu until 2000 at least, up in Auckland there was Lindorfer Kohler and Carl Weber. I've since found out those two were training together, so that would kind of make sense. And there's bound to be some other Japanese jiu-jitsu schools and stuff like that. Because at the Jiu-Jitsu Nationals in 97 and 98, there was a lot of judo guys who were fighting judo guys too. And then down in Dunedin, there was the guy down there doing his jiu-jitsu thing, but I don't know, maybe he was a blue belt or something like that. but that was kind of it. And so I moved over here, and I didn't hear much about what was happening in New Zealand. It was pretty quiet. Jeff Aiken had come over, and I ran into him at a seminar with Andre Pataneros and John Lewis. Yeah, I don't know what else was happening in New Zealand at that time. Carl Weber, who has stayed there the whole time, would probably know better than me. But that was my story and my experience of Jiu-Jitsu in New Zealand. The Academy of Combat, I think I was probably one of the few people, maybe the first, to train full-time Jiu-Jitsu in New Zealand. I had my sponsors from my mountain biking, and I was already a professional athlete. I knew a lot about sports science and how to train properly, and so it wasn't surprising that I would go to the nationals and then like smash all the hobbyists and stuff like that. I had some tough matches, yeah, I mean, it's interesting looking back, but after 2000, I'm not sure what was going on in New Zealand. I was over here competing in jiu-jitsu a lot, but still in my mind I was planning on going to the UFC. It didn't eventuate. I ended up setting up my own jiu-jitsu academy and really falling in love with jiu-jitsu, and that was a great thing, because I was a little bit insane at the time, and it was probably a good thing that I left the Vale-Tudo and the MMA scene behind, because jiu-jitsu, it allowed me to kind of, I guess, find myself and experience a martial art. I love wearing the gi. I love training in the gi. When I take it off, it really makes me want to start hitting. It reminds me of my Vale-Tudo roots and MMA stuff and things like that. But anyway, I hope that helps. Rest in peace, Jeff Aiken. I'll always love the guy. He passed away during COVID. He had to take a shot, and then passed away as a result. So that's super sad. I was horrified when I found out, and yeah, he was definitely one of the main pioneers, if not the pioneer, of Jiu-Jitsu in New Zealand. And without him and the Academy of Combat, there's a good chance that I wouldn't have. It would have been years maybe before I discovered Jiu-Jitsu. So a lot of respect to Jeff and the team at the Academy of Combat. I hope that it's still going strong, and that Carl Weber and the early guys, I hope Matt ended up getting his black belt. I wish I could remember his last name, but I believe he went to China, ended up getting his black belt. James Tung got his black belt. I've seen him online doing things. So yeah, it was an interesting time. It was super hard training. We beat the living hell out of each other, and yeah, it was a tough time. It was a tough time. So that's my recount of the early history of Jiu-Jitsu in New Zealand. Again, I think it was probably Japanese Jiu-Jitsu nationals in '97 and '98. There was BJJ guys there. Carl Weber, I think, was in there. A guy Malcolm, who was a Japanese Jiu-Jitsu black belt from Academy of Combat. He was fighting in those two. He came up. He and I ended up competing against each other. Yeah, it was a really interesting time. It's awesome that New Zealand Jiu-Jitsu is developing. There's some great instructors, and I wish you the best. Yeah, reach out. See you guys. Bye.